right, this is the Bunzarelli Show. Lots of action from the San Diego Comic-Con. This show, we're going to talk about Thor Ragnarok, the teaser that was revealed. But first, I want to cover some business real quick. Thank you, everybody, for voting for the Bunzarelli Show for Orlando Weekly Magazine. This show should come out on the 16th. The winners will be announced August 23rd. You know, if you're not from Orlando, from out of the country or something, I'll be announcing the winners on my show the 30th, regardless of whether I win or not, for the sake of good sportsmanship. So good luck to the other podcasts out there. Some other thing, live shows are in the works. We're working some kinks out. So make sure you follow. I am at Joe Bunzarelli on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Also, we'll be going live via speaker and at bunzarelli.com. So if you follow me on any of these social networks, there's not going to be any rhyme or reason to the live shows until I get the kinks worked out. I'm also not going to do probably not so much movie reviews as trailers, because when I do my movie reviews, I like to break down and spoil it, and I don't want to do that to somebody live. It's just kind of stumbling on the show. Also, one last thing. If you want to support the Bunzarelli Show without spending any money, we are an Amazon affiliate. So if you go to bunzarelli.com and you see anywhere you see the Amazon logo, click on that. If you do your purchases, it won't cost you anything extra, and it throws a little something into the tip jar. So thanks for that. So let's get on with the show. We already talked about Justice League and the SDCC. Two things also came out. One of them, which was a big hit, and I know Charlotte was waiting for this, but the second full trailer for Thor Ragnarok.
I'm all about graphics and stuff like that. Like, I love that stuff. The fonts and whatnot that they're using, it's very
bright. It's got a very fresh, crisp look to it.
It does. It looks reworked, but like He-Man reworked, which we all used to love. And so that's my first impression. I'm loving that. The music is also kind of on theme with 80s-ish. Like, I kind of thought of Stranger Things when I was listening to it. Kate Blanchett is killing it as the villain, just in the trailer, so I can't wait to see the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And, of course, my boyfriend, Thor himself, is really vulnerable, it looks like, in this one. He loses his hammer. Like, that's his thing, right?
Yeah.
His hammer.
I'm surprised about that. I mean, that's like a big, bold move. I don't see how he possibly gets that back. Now, I know from what I've gathered, because I went back and actually watched the end of the Doctor Strange credits, because I'm trying to figure out where Doctor Strange plays into this, because we do know from the end of Thor Ragnarok that Loki had taken the form of Odin. And we know from the after the credit scene in Doctor Strange that Thor comes to Earth with, his long hair, apparently before losing the hammer, just because of the hair. It's the only thing I have to gauge by, but with Loki.
Right.
So I'm assuming that is where Loki stashed Odin. The result of that, I'm guessing, is Valkyrie. I think the whole hammer thing goes down on Earth. From the little I see, it looks like an Earth city. So I don't know if that's something Odin could fix or will fix, but I haven't seen any signs of Odin making a return, even though he is in the IMDb. So, it's really weird. I do like the visuals, like you said, are really crisp and refreshing. I think they've taken a page from the Guardians of the Galaxy, because as cool as Thor is and as cool as his character is, I think his look, I don't know, I feel like it got stale kind of quick, because now I look at old pictures of Thor and I'm like, ugh. It just kind of got boring. He was cool. I think he needed to kind of like, not so much a reboot, but just a fresh take on the whole, a little shot in the arm. And by giving him a shot in the arm, the big thing I like is the Hulk's presence. I really like the Hulk in this movie and what he's going to do with Thor.
That was pretty interesting.
Yeah. We see a lot of the Hulk. We've seen the Hulk in like in his movies. Hulk's had like a unsuccessful run of solo movies. Like if you go to the first two, they were okay, not super well received.
Right, they were okay.
And the reason the Hulk doesn't do his own movies is, what do you want to see? You want to see Hulk throw around tanks again? It's going to be the same thing.
Hulk smash.
Yeah, but him in this Thor element, I mean, already you see him fighting a giant wolf. You see him fighting this, and I wrote this thing at the end, Surtur, that big devil-looking thing at the end. I mean, this is stuff that's been seen in the comics, but not really realized in the movies. Plus, he's in outer space, so he's, like, free from, like, repercussions as far as, like, the damage he's going to cause. So I'm really excited about seeing the Hulk in this movie.
Another thing I like, with all the Pegasus, you remember that part of the trailer? They had the big
like
thing
the
is like the
motion.
Pegasus, fight scene.
Yeah.
Like who doesn't want to ride on a Pegasus?
Yeah.
And they totally nailed it it looks like, just from the trailer. I'm hoping that they don't disappoint when they get there, and that's all you get. Like, I want to see some Pegasus fight scenes. We've seen plenty of just regular horse fighting, and that's enough. But yeah, let's see some Pegasus stuff.
Yeah. I didn't even get, that part, that the visuals of her, Kate Blanchett in this thing.
She's the goddess of death.
Yeah, hella. She is badass in this movie. Like, every time, like, there's one scene where she just tilts her head a little bit, and it just looks awesome. And something about that crown, because usually, they try to pull off the winged helmet, which is the, like, the official, like, look of Thor. And he ditched that helmet within, like, the first hour of the first Thor movie. And Loki's tried to sport the long horns a couple times, and he even brought it to Avengers. And once in a while, when Loki's really getting dressed up, he'll put the horns on. But this girl's freaking crown is ridiculous. Like, she looks fierce with that thing, and she looks fierce with it off. She looks fierce with it when, like, it looks like her makeup's running and her hair's wet. Like, she is badass looking.
Totally agree. And Kate Blanchett, she's a seasoned actress, and she's been in a ton of movies. And we're not just talking like crappy films from Australia where she's from. We're talking about like The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings and like big time movies. So she is definitely the right cast for this role. Maybe they may want to try like an Angelina Jolie because she had the whole Maleficent thing, which was good. But Kate Blanchett, when she's talking about something in the trailer, it's like, this feels so good or something like that. Like she just sounds evil.
Yes,
and she's ready to mess some stuff up. Like, these guys are going to have a fight on their hands.
Yeah, and Jeff Goldblum, he looks like interesting. He's doing his usual Jeff Goldblum thing, it looks like. And another note about her being the goddess of death, and I wanted you to look at the Infinity War teaser. Even though now I'm surprised about the Infinity War, that footage. Usually in a big convention like that, like I watched Celebration, I watched that live streaming. And they had the panel, they sat out like Mark Hamill, Daisy Ridley and everything, and they showed the teaser. And then like immediately, like 2 minutes on my phone, the teaser's on YouTube. Because these teasers are constantly getting leaked. And this is Marvel, Disney, it's all the same like conglomerate. So I'm very surprised that they haven't like officially released that Infinity War footage since it's been leaked. What I'm guessing is because maybe it isn't as polished and they just wanted to give these guys something. But the reason why Infinity War is such an important thing to this, because I've heard rumors about it, but nobody's flat out said it. But now, I don't know how much you know about the Infinity War comic storyline, but Thanos gets this Infinity Gauntlet, and the reason that he's bent on world destruction with this gauntlet is because he's in love with death. He's doing it to impress death. So what I'm wondering is if this Gila character is going to be the representation of death. Because if she is, I am like doubly super excited about the Infinity War, because I'll watch the movie with just her and Thanos hanging out. I mean, I'll watch her fight everybody without Thanos, but she is really, really cool. Like, I can't even remember the last villain in the last Thor. I seriously can't. I'm trying to picture who it was. It was just some like, let's fill the gap. But this movie, like,
yeah, who was it? Wasn't it like some alien?
It was the dark elf Malekith. Which, meanwhile, we're all watching that movie to see what Loki did anyway. Nobody really cared about, like, Malekith. This movie, like, the villain, like, stands out against Loki. And, it's still good to see Loki again. And it's a weird thing with Loki because I don't know. I'll tell you my feelings on this, and you tell me your feelings on this. But as far as, like, Loki goes, because it's like, you forget, like, Avengers, he killed a bunch of people. But because of, like, we kind of know his struggles and the reasoning behind, he's, like, the rejected adopted son and everything. And, he's, he gets lighthearted at times. So I don't know where is he a villain? Is he a good guy? Because obviously he's going to team up with Thor again. But, where are they going to break apart after this? I don't, it's hard to take the consequences of what he does when all of a sudden him and Thor are being chummy back to back. I don't know how I feel about Loki. Oh, but then again, from the little glimpses of Infinity War, he might go back to the villain side. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Well, I think it just explores a normal family dynamic. Sometimes you get along with your family members, and sometimes you don't.
Yeah.
I mean, whether you're saving the universe or ordering a pizza, that dynamic exists no matter what. So I think, they do a good job of exploring what it's like to have a brother who you don't always get along with. Mm-hmm. Because like we've talked about in the past, this is fiction, and fiction lies within reality. Mm-hmm. So somewhere along the line of the story, somebody wasn't getting along with their brother. Mm-hmm. And so they decided to kind of make it into this struggle. Not that, whoever's brother killed however many people, but
I'm more or less curious, like down the road, looking at Loki as a character, because I don't know where. Well, obviously, it's not going to wind up rounded out in Thor 3 because Loki is from the blurry footage. I hate really taking that blurry footage I see as canon, but it's kind of relevant to talking about where Thor ends up, and especially Loki. But I'm curious where Loki's storyline ends as far as like the big picture, because whatever role he plays in this Infinity War, I think is going to be the end game for Loki as far as does he get his redemption or is he just die evil? Because this Thanos thing with this Infinity Gauntlet is like going to be a big, massive superpower, like a big, like Earth-threatening kind of deal. So it almost is Loki's only chance to redeem himself. And what I'm thinking is, I'm just shooting way ahead, but Loki would be the person that would catch Thanos off guard. Do you know what I'm saying? Almost like the Darth Vader throwing the Emperor down the shaft. I think Loki might be the only person that, like, he doesn't see it coming. If it comes down to that, and I'm just playing off of like some predictions, but this Loki character, it's very rich and deep. So I hope they round out his storyline correctly, because he is like a rich, important character in the Marvel universe. I mean, every villain that comes...
Well, there is layers.
Yes.
There's definitely layers there. I was trying to explain character development to our 15-year-old the other day. And she's watching the show, and she's like, oh, I don't like so-and-so. I'm like, well, later in the show, you're probably going to like him because it's going to show you what he's been through as a person to end up to this person that you don't like. And then maybe you'll start to think about him a little differently. See, that's the great thing about good writing. Like that movie Monster about the woman serial killer there.
Yes.
Like you felt sorry for a woman serial killer because of what happened to her growing up, and you see kind of where she ended up. Not that it's an excuse to be a serial killer, but I think kind of Loki shares that same, like, oh yeah, it kind of sucks, but do you understand why he can be like that?
Yeah, same
now
as
that we've kind of the storyline has gone on.
Yeah, same as like the Vulture in Spider-Man, or Doc Ock, and even like Wonder Woman. We talked about that before. The villain in that one, like you agree with it or not, he had a point of view, and you could understand where he was coming from. Just being evil for the sake of being evil doesn't make any sense, because nobody really truly believes they're doing the wrong thing. Even the worst people in the world.
That's exactly right.
So you do have to have a point of view. That's why, that's why these storylines develop more from like, well, I just want to take over the world, or I just want to rob banks. You got to have something a little deeper than that. Loki's quest for power is because of his being rejected, and not even being like the second favorite brother, but even like finding out he's not even really Odin's son. So he's like just an outcast. And I don't know. I would like to see him redeem himself, because maybe it's just because I like the actor and his performance of Loki, but Loki's just always been like a great part. I mean, Loki's what sold Avengers to everybody, because everybody saw him and they're like, oh, he's the bad guy. Yes. Like he was like, just, he kicked off that whole thing with Avengers like awesomely. And it's just, I love seeing his character develop and change. And also he wasn't in the last Avengers. So it's been a while since we've seen Loki. It's been like 2 or 3 years.
Right. Yeah. I don't know what old Tom was up to in that time. What's his name? Tom something?
Tom Hiddleston.
I think he went out with Taylor Swift for like 10 minutes. Didn't he?
They took a picture on like a Ferris wheel or something. And then he did
that was it.
Then he did like King Kong, and he's been hanging out.
Yeah, I'm sure he's glad to be back too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. for real. We love taking the kids to go see that. And I think it's like kid friendly. It's not like Logan, a Wolverine story.
No,
which was actually really good too.
Yeah. Oh, Logan was fantastic. Yeah, usually the Marvel movies, like that was a Fox/Marvel movie, but like the Marvel produced movies are usually staying in that like, PG-13 realm, where Fox is actually getting a little more bold, but that's basically it was. I think the success of Deadpool had a lot to do with the decision to make Wolverine rated R, and I'm glad they did, because Wolverine is a character that needs to be rated R. I mean, he has metal claws. You don't hug somebody with those. You know what I'm saying? There's going to be some I mean, in the first X-Men movies, he would run up close to somebody and you could just kind of hear him. He jab them, but and not that I need to see gratuitous violence, but Wolverine is just a violent character. It's just the nature of his abilities. Yeah, and I loved Logan. It was really good. It was a good way for him to go out, Hugh Jackman.
I think, what do you say? Been doing that since like 2000, like 17 years of Wolverine.
Yeah, it was 2000. It was 17 years. 2000, he was in X-Men, and X-Men kicked off I believe it was X-Men kicked off everything, because X-Men was the first like superhero movie to come in that age where special effects were more attainable and more affordable. So once X-Men came, then Spider-Man came with Sony came out with Spider-Man, and then Marvel had its B-list characters left, because back in the day with comics, like Captain America, Thor, and Iron Man, they're cool now because of the movie. I wouldn't even look at those guys in the comic book store. I mean, those comics were, Spider-Man was always the top seller, and so was X-Men. That's why those were the easier movie rights to sell. Now, the magic that Marvel's made with these B-list characters and made them awesome, and that's how they were able to pull off this Sony deal with Spider-Man and get Spider-Man back. Which, by the way, I love this new Spider-Man. I don't know. Did you see the new Spider-Man, Charlotte?
I have not.
Did you catch him in Civil War?
Yes.
Okay. That was the same. Yeah, the new Spider-Man, Tom Holland. He's like, now he exists in the Marvel universe, and they explored a lot of that dynamic with him and Iron Man, Tony Stark in Spider-Man, and we're gonna move forward. That I like it. They're going forward to that same dynamic. It's that relationship, how it's traveling between these two movie studios, and they're keeping it intact. I like that. It shows that Sony and Marvel are both working hard to make this work. So, yeah, definitely excited to see that. And definitely excited for Infinity War. This Thor is, like I said, we both said, like a fresh look. I like the haircut. I like, I think they've taken a page from Guardians of the Galaxy with that little bit of 80s rock and roll thing. And you know what? Who can blame him? Maybe putting Thor more of that, like the outer space and, less of like the mystical wizardry kind of thing. Maybe, I think it's the shot in the arm.
Renaissance Thor.
I think it's the shot in the arm the character needed.
Well, yeah, he pulled a total Madonna. He just rebranded himself.
Yeah.
How many Madonnas have we seen? Right?
Yeah, he's just like,
it's
or
smart.
like Britney.
It's good branding. Yeah, Britney. You name it. All the greats have done it, and they do it for a reason, because you do need kind of like a little fresh, a one-up. You talk about the hat with the wings, and you talk about he got rid of it in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was in the comic books, right? That's how you identified Thor. He had that hat on.
Yeah, he always wore the hat, yeah.
So I think that was a good bridge into a different media.
Mm-hmm. From
comic book to movie, you got to get rid of the hat, but you got to let people know that it was there, because that was a staple. That was a identifier.
Yeah, in the movie they made it more like it was like a ceremonial thing, because really some stuff just doesn't translate to movies well. I mean, if you even look at Captain America's costume, like, his first one they made it like was like almost like a suit of like military, like a coat kind of thing, and then like his first costume in Avengers, they tried to go like as close to the comic book as they could, and he looked ridiculous. It looked like he was wearing like Captain America pajamas, and they realized it, they knew it, and that's why his costume evolved in Winter Soldier and Civil War, and they went back to that military look, because like tights, certain things just don't. I mean, Hawkeye in the comic books is wearing like this purple Wolverine mask, and even Wolverine's mask. Just like I said, some stuff. Some people are purists and they want everything true, but I just want stuff that doesn't look stupid on the big screen. Whatever your sacrifices you got to make. You know what I'm saying? Just some stuff doesn't translate to movies well, and that's okay. You know, Wolverine's like his big old mask with the little eye flaps and everything. I don't know if we could have handled that. I don't know if the movie would have been successful if they put like the X-Men in like bright yellow and blue tights. You know, you gotta visually, you know, you gotta just make things change and everything. Another big change is you didn't see Spider-Man, but they're bringing out the Iron Spider costume. They showed a little, they hinted at it at Spider-Man, but it's supposed to be more of a high tech, like a cross between the Spider-Man and the Iron Man suit hybrid. So, like I said, I know it's blurry footage and you can't really make much of it, but it's definitely interesting for Spider-Man fans and people that enjoyed that movie.
No, that'll be a good combination. Because, I mean, think about what Spider-Man started off as in the comic books. Just a high school kid with radioactive spider powers, right?
Yep.
But now, because back then, the internet and stuff didn't exist. And there wasn't all this technology. And so now that it is, it would make sense to upgrade these characters as well.
Yes.
And give them a little bit more, like Batman these days compared to what he had before. I mean, it was just a utility belt. At one point, he had a little thing he could throw here and there. I mean, just look at Batman. He's got all kinds of stuff now. And it's a reflection of what's going on in the world and advancing technology and stuff like that. So, yeah, I think that's awesome. I think Spider-Man does need an Iron Man suit. Could you imagine the things he could do with that?
Oh, yeah.
He's already fantastic.
Yeah, they showed some hints of some stuff he could do in Spider-Man, the new Spider-Man movie. But yeah, definitely like a more advanced arm. We're really excited. Definitely excited about the refresh, the characters, and the cast. And I definitely want to see the Hulk action. And I think that might be the standout for me, is seeing the Hulk like unleashed against some like magical giant space monsters. So Charlotte, thanks again for joining the show. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it was awesome. Thanks, Joe.